In our riding of Saint Croix, near Macadam, near Lawrence Station, Rolling Dam, the practice of logging is happening. And that means, by customary practice in New Brunswick, licenses are being issued to areas of land near those communities in St. Croix, and that area is being clear cut and sprayed with glyphosate. Now, we talked about that yesterday. I popped a map up. Can do it again here. Those red areas, Macadam's kind of at the 12 o'clock. So you see those red blotchy areas. That is areas where licenses have been issued in the riding of St. Croix. Now, east of us, it gets absolutely crazy. Tons of red. So thankfully, Charlotte County has less of that activity going on. But I want to talk about that practice of after an area has been clear cut and the logging companies only want conifers to grow, they spray glyphosate. Now, hey, makes sense on paper, right? You just spread a harmless little herbicide and you get only the trees you want. Okay, I'm going to show my hand here and just say that is obviously devastating to the diversity of the forests. But how does glyphosate work? And it is important to understand what that is. And again, I'm trying to set a foundation just on facts here. Saying the word glyphosate can end up being kind of a like waving a red flag in front of a bull, if that's even a real thing. It's very emotionally charged right off the bat. A lot of people might immediately take one side or the other. And so to ease into any topic that is so charged, and you can think of many of such topics of the last few years that just end up being so polarizing. Thankfully, this one is rooted in research and science. And it's just a matter of understanding what is the latest research and the latest science, and which research can we trust, and which research has been faulty, but then maybe updated and shown to be faulty and corrected along the way. Let's talk about what glyphosate is, first of all. Okay, then we'll talk about the history. But glyphosate is an herbicide that is basically a substitute amino acid. Okay, so it is a chemical. That's where glyphosate, and it has 36 letters or something, the actual real chemical of it, but it's called glyphosate. It is, as I said, an amino acid substitute. And what it does is it inhibits the growth of amino acids in a plant by interfering with the EPSPS enzyme. Okay? So the EPSPS enzyme is responsible in a plant for creating the proteins that allow that plant to grow. Proteins, of course, being kind of the building block of organic life in a lot of ways. So the EPSPS enzyme is responsible for growing multiple amino acids inside the plant. So what happens when glyphosate makes contact with the plant? It substitutes its amino acid, the amino acid that is glyphosate, with the other amino acids, suppresses the growth of other amino acids. And of course, when EPSPS enzyme is inhibited, it is fatal to the plant. But what makes glyphosate so effective is that the plant cannot metabolize glyphosate. So it can't digest that molecule, work on it, and kill it off the way other less effective herbicides might make contact with the leaf, and then kind of like an immune system, the plant can be damaged, go to work, and possibly still survive at its core. What happens here is because it's a substitute amino acid, in a way it tricks the plant, and the plant brings in that amino acid to its other amino acids, and then of course it can't produce any more. And so that molecule makes its way right down to the target area, the nerve center of the plant essentially, and very effectively shuts that plant down. It cannot produce the proteins and it dies. Now, why are forestry companies applying this, and agricultural companies for that matter? It is used over 40, 50% by forestry companies, but then there's landscaping companies, and then there are agricultural companies as well. We will get into that tomorrow or the next day. But why is it that forestry companies use this to spray? It's because that leafy plants are more susceptible to the glyphosate. With their exposed leaves, they take in the amino acid a lot more readily than the conifers. Conifers, of course, are trees with needles. So the theory at the beginning of glyphosate and persists to this day is that the leafy plants die, and those aren't the ones that forestry companies want. The birch and that kind of thing. Those trees, that wood gets in the way. What they want is fir and spruce and pine. And so glyphosate kills the trees that they don't want, and the theory leaves the trees that they do want. And in a perfect world, that would happen. Glyphosate would just simply kill those trees, have no other effect, and everything is hunky-dory. When did glyphosate appear on the scene? In 1976, Monsanto registered a chemical that we call glyphosate. And I'm not even going to try, like I say, the longer version of that. They licensed it in and they registered it in a product called Roundup. Now, how does any country approve the use of a pesticide, a chemical, to be used on the market? Well, in Canada, let's not the United States Drug Administration and U.S. Health Department, they take care of that. But let's stick to Canada. In Canada, it is something called. Oh, I should. Well, let's skip because we're almost at 5 minutes. I'll come back to that other slide tomorrow. It's called the Pest Management Regulatory Agency. Okay, and I pulled this right off the Canadian website because when you're researching glyphosate, you're going to see this a lot. That the PMRA says it's okay. So the Health Canada PMRA is responsible for pesticide regulation in Canada. It was created in 1995 specifically, and it continues in an ongoing way to say that it is safe. Now, commercial use of glyphosate in forestry began in 1976 when Monsanto registered Roundup. And in a February 1978 study, and I'll leave this here for today, Roy Sutton of the Canadian Forest Service said, environmentally safe yet potent in controlling herbs, grasses, and woody species with possibilities for selective use, glyphosate has great potential usefulness in forestry. Okay, so see how it went from kind of a household pesticide you might spray in controlled settings to, hey, this has great potential in forestry, to now, as I showed on the map, being sprayed from helicopters from the sky over a huge swath of area. And as I said, I have a slide ready to show you just how much New Brunswick gets sprayed. And then we will consider whether or not it is safe, whether we want this to be happening. It was declared safe in 1976, 1978 especially. And this to me is very reminiscent of the tobacco industry, just saying, hey, cigarettes do not cause cancer. You have nothing to worry about. Trust me, they're DDT. We're going to talk about that too. DDT, this herbicide that was sprayed over huge swaths of land. You can read the book Silent Spring. That was also considered perfectly safe until it wasn't. So we're seeing shades and shadows of earlier incidents where something was deemed completely harmless until it wasn't. And so let's pick up tomorrow. Thanks for joining me on this glyphosate odyssey. I'm on my way to St. Andrews tonight for the NB Power Symposium and presentation to the general public. Because again, we're talking about glyphosate, but we also need to talk about the power not going out. That is what it takes to be an MLA. And in a way, I am doing the research now. I am practicing getting ready to be your MLA and earn your vote on October 21st.